I'm going to learn how to speak without using filler words. Notice that in this moment, there are these long pauses when I'm trying to think of what to say next. I'm trying to monitor my own thought process and the words that are coming out of my mouth. And I can feel myself right now almost getting ahead of myself. So I need to stop and pause and take a breath. But not focusing, see, I just did it, sort of. I used the word but. Not focusing so much on the act of breathing itself, but rather focusing on the space in the mind where I perceive my thoughts to be arising. When I focus on that space, which for me feels like it's in here somewhere, and in this pause, I try to think of what to say next. It's a weird, delicate process. It requires some amount of finesse and a sense of presence. And I feel like even now, as I'm using those words, and that is me using filler words. So I feel like I should work even more diligently to let there be a pause and not use those words. Right now, I'm thinking on my feet. I'm not thinking ahead of time, and I feel like I'm going to pretty quickly lose the plot. So I'm going to take a moment and pause here. What I'm noticing is just how easy it is to get carried away. Not to say that it's a bad thing. However, wouldn't it be cool if I had a choice so that I could choose between several options? I guess the first option would be speaking before I think. So I'll give you an example of that. All right, so right now I'm just talking and I'm not really thinking about what's coming out of my mouth and I'm just going with the flow, and that's fine. And I'll probably end up using filler words like "and," like I just did, and I probably won't take breaths, and I'll probably keep talking because I feel like I need to keep this momentum going, and it makes me a little anxious and nervous being on the spot, and I don't want to mess it up. So I guess that was an example of the first option, which is just blah, blah, blah without thinking. The second option is to actually think about what I'm going to say before I say it while I'm pausing and not speaking. It requires maybe self-control. Is that what it is? Grounded presence, maybe a sense of calm. And then the third one is kind of in between, where we're giving ourselves just enough time. Maybe we think of one or two words ahead of time and then kind of improvise each sentence. So right now I'm taking a pause and I'm noticing that there is a vast space which contains so many different, right now I'm just talking on the fly again, I'm not thinking about it. There's so many different options for where you could take a conversation or what words or sentences you could use. And there's my filler word right there, and. And there it is again. I use that because I'm not taking the time to think about what I'm saying, which is cool. I think it's to be able to speak off the cuff and not have to think at all. That's cool. I mean, that's an interesting, possibly useful skill. And I'm just wondering what it would be like. Let's just try and pause and kind of restart, see if I can achieve that whole thinking before we speak. All right, so here we are. And I'm not going to use any filler words. And I'm not going to judge myself because I can feel those thoughts coming in. It's not like we have to get it perfect. It's not like we have to think of every sentence before we say it. I was just reminded of the rapper Harry Mack. And if you've ever seen him, you'll know what I'm referring to. And if not, maybe check him out on YouTube. He seems to have this mental verbal ability to come up with the lines that he's going to freestyle rap well in advance so that he never misses a beat. I can't imagine that he's doing it just on the fly. I think he's thinking, and maybe he even said this in one of the interviews or something that I saw with him, that he's thinking a few lines ahead of time in his mind so that by the time he gets to that beat, he already knows what he's going to rap. Which I thought was really interesting, and it's kind of a different way. It's not how I usually process information, so I don't know. I feel like this could be a fun exploration. Again, I'm not doing it. I'm just talking off the cuff right now, but let's see if I can rein it in. The reason that I'm so interested in doing this is because, number one, I think it's very difficult to even get up and just talk extemporaneously, like off the cuff, to just keep going and going and going for an hour. Not many people can just do that comfortably, right? I couldn't do that either, but I've been practicing it. If we could do that and also simultaneously think about what we're saying before we speak, we might have the best of both worlds where we have that ability to just adapt on the fly and keep a conversation going. And also, it's almost like when you're sitting down to write a paper, if you've ever done that, you sit down and you kind of think, and then you come up with a good sentence and you write it down. So it's like that ability to think and plan ahead of time, but in real time almost, so that your mind is actually processing things much faster than your mouth. Which I feel like would allow you to be even more effective of a speaker. And to me, that the art of public speaking, right now I'm not doing it, I'm still just speaking off the cuff. But to me, the art of public speaking could have to do with blending, being totally present in the moment, like what I am right now, where I'm just blah, blah, blahing. And who knows how effective this communication actually is. And then adding in, okay, now I'm going to pause and not use filler words and try to think in that 1 second gap. Like, what's my next word? What's my next theme? What's my next? And you can find maybe better options in that 1 second gap and improve, get even better and better at navigating that conversation so that before you know it, a couple of years go by and you've mastered the art of thinking on your feet and speaking on your feet, and then merge those into what would be, I think, a very fun and effective way of communicating. To be able to master the art of speech, communication, storytelling. So that was a filler word too. I'm just sitting here feeling my feelings, the heaviness in my body, the tiredness, and thinking about what I have to do next, and I'm not really in it. I'm just feeling a lot of weightiness and sleepiness, and I'm just, oh man, like, really? You're going to make me sit up here and try to think and talk? That's a lot of work, a lot of mental processing for 6 o'clock at night, and I'm getting ready to go eat dinner. But all right, let's see if we can do one more attempt at this before we give up, because I haven't done much of it. All right. So here I am. And I'm actually going to think of each sentence before I speak. Wouldn't that be fun? I feel kind of silly. And I also notice that this gives me more control and precision over what I'm about to say. And right now I'm losing the beat of it a little bit. The end of that last sentence, I did improvise a little bit. I tried to think of the whole thing in my head. I had it kind of, and then I sort of changed it, which is fine. But again, I'm going to pull it. This is like practice. I'm going to pull it back and try to think of each sentence ahead of time. So here is a sentence. Could you tell? No, damn it. I'm not even doing it. This is really challenging. Wow. Okay, you could see me getting flustered. It's actually so much harder than you'd think. The mind just tends to run away like it's doing right now. All right, one more try and then I'm going to stop this and probably go make dinner. Let's see how many. Okay, wait. This doesn't count. This is just me spitballing. This is kind of like games where, I don't know, you're throwing something back and forth and you count how many times you can catch it before someone drops it. It's kind of like something like that. All right, how many sentences can I get that where I've fully thought of and formed the sentence in my mind first? All right, so this is the first sentence. And I'm going to say another one. And I'm noticing that I can take this conversation in any direction I want. Does this mean I have conscious control? Does this mean I have the power to choose? Or is this all pre-programmed as well? I feel like I have more control? But how would I know? In that last sentence, I was thinking of a lot of different sentences. And I didn't know which one to choose. And I notice when things get kind of fuzzy, it's like you have more than one option. It's like analysis paralysis. Where you're given several choices and you start looking back and forth. And suddenly you've lost the ability to focus. So far, I'm on track. Without using any fillers. And I'm feeling pretty good about that. I almost got ahead of myself there. But this is kind of fun. When you hear me taking a long pause, it's because I'm deciding between different choices. And I think it's important not to be too rigid because, oh shoot, I just lost it. Exactly. You can't be too rigid about it because if you, like, let's say I'm doing an exercise right now, right? Where I'm saying I want to think of the exact sentence in my head first and then say it and keep doing that over and over again so that it's a perfect one-to-one match, right? So I have to get every single word right. I think that's a great exercise. Obviously, that's not how it's going to function necessarily in real life because you'd be kind of like a little bit too robotic. Unless you were a very fast thinker, maybe then it would be okay. But I think there is going to be some switching and changing things on the fly. Anyways, I do feel like this has been kind of a fun and interesting video / exercise for me. I suppose I'll just post it because I haven't posted a video in 5 days. And I don't know if anyone else will find this interesting, but might as well just put it up there just for the heck of it and see. But I also want to remind myself, like, hey, you know what? You maybe you attempted to learn a new skill today, and maybe it was fun, and maybe it was useful, it could be useful. So